Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Space Coast GPO Governing Board meeting, and today is May 11th, 2023. I'm calling this meeting to order. Would you please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hoorah!
Zoe, would you please read the roll call? No, not on.
Hello?
There you are.
Allender, Barton,
Here.
Cole, Felix, Feltner,
Here.
Forrester,
Here.
Foster, Hanley, Goodson, Koss, Medina,
Present.
Minus, Pritchett, Robinson,
Here.
Sanders, Tobiah, Willis,
Here.
Young,
Here.
Zonka. Goins,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
we have quorum.
Thank you, sir. Look at these fancy microphones. Public comment. Anyone wishing to make a comment and an item not on the agenda should complete a speaker card. For the items on the agenda, please fill out a speaker card and give it to a member of staff, and you will be called upon as the item is discussed. We are going to move right down to item 4. We're going to go right down to consent, and then we will come back for the for item 3. So item 4 is the consent agenda. Georgiana, would you please read the agenda?
Certainly. The consent agenda is quite a large one. A is the TPO Governing Board meeting minutes of March 9th, 2023. We also have our committee appointments for the City of Rockledge and the Board of County Commissioners. C is the acceptance of our fiscal year 22 audit, which reported no findings or corrective actions.
Yay.
Yes, and D, First Amendment to the Legal Services Agreement. E, Work Order 23-05K, which is our 2022 State of the System report that we produce each year. F is the approval and acceptance of an FDOT intermodal grant that we received for $330,000, and the work order to have our consultant begin work on an intermodal station feasibility study for the North Cocoa location. And then G, fiscal year 23 through 24 UPWP, or Unified Planning Work Program, and our fiscal year 23 operating budget amendment. And then the last item is work order 23-07H. This is for to begin work on our 2050 long-range transportation plan and an update to the transit development plan to align both of those major documents, and we're doing that in coordination with Space Coast Area Transit. So a lot of work coming up. So that is the consent agenda.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
Make the motion.
Motion minus second. Forrester?
I'll second. Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, motion minus second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you very much. Consent agenda passes. All right, today we're just going to go down to item number 5, the First Amendment to the Executive Director Employment Agreement. Mr. Gogelman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This agreement is to basically renew the employment agreement that we currently have with our Executive Director, Georgiana Gillette. It basically renews her agreement for another few years, with pay will remain the same as she's making right now. Obviously, when we have when the TPO Governing Board has the annual evaluation, you will at that point entertain any pay adjustments that may be appropriate. There are no changes of significance in this particular agreement from the previous agreement. She's giving up one of her employment benefits as indicated in there, which is the stipend for cell phone usage. And other than that, it is the same and renews through September 30th of 2028. Madam Chair, a motion to approve is in order.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve? Miss Hanley?
Why are we giving up the concessions? I mean, not that Georgiana can be found at any time. And why are we giving, taking away the stipend for the cell phone use? Because that's a business use and we have access to you.
Yes, and I think everyone in here has my cell phone number, and you know you can reach me at any time. You know, my thoughts were I'm going to pay for a cell phone regardless, and it was just I think it's a $40 a month stipend, and I thought that it wasn't necessarily needed within the agreement. You know, if you want to keep it in there, that's fine, but
Since it's being used for business and we can use, it's just the accountant coming out on me.
Sure.
That it is a business use and it's not that you have two separate phones and things like that.
Yeah, I find that very cumbersome. I know, you know, a lot of folks do have two separate phones. I just prefer to use my personal, you know, cell phone, and of course, I am at everyone's discretion, day or night or the weekend. So I will leave that up to the board, but my thoughts were we could just take it out of the agreement, employment agreement.
My thing is that we have access to you, so it is a business use. It's
Okay.
not just a pleasure, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
And if we need to get a hold of you, if something happens with roadway systems, we can get a hold of you. So that's my, it's the accountant coming out of me.
Sure.
Sorry about that, guys, but I believe can we put it back in there that she gets the $40 stipend?
Madam Chair, if the board desires to keep that benefit in there, you can simply approve the agreement, striking Section D of the agreement.
I make a motion that we strike Section D.
All right, motion Hanley, second Minus with discussion.
Question.
Question? Well, hold on. Ms. Minus already has a question, so hold on.
Okay, thank you. Also, just to follow up on that, with it being her personal phone, if there's a public, a service request, will it be accessible since she's using it for company use? Thank you.
Are you asking, is it for company use on her personal phone, or she's still carrying two phones?
No.
She does.
If it is, and I totally agree, yes, she should, be compensated for that. But if there is a public service request, and that is her personal phone, will they have access to it since that is her personal phone?
Oh, personal records, all right.
Oh, yes.
A records request, yes.
Absolutely. I would assume that, yes, that would fall under public records request, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so we have Mr. Forrester?
One question. If we strike that whole item, doesn't that also remove her laptop provision?
No.
It's in the same paragraph.
Yeah, basically, the way this agreement is set up, Madam Chair, is that it is amending the existing agreement. I said renewing, it is renewing it because we're extending her employment agreement, or you will be extending her employment agreement until 2028. But basically what this does is it amends the current terms, and any amendment to the current terms is what's displayed in this amendment. So if you strike it, you're fine. Her laptop, her automobile, all that will continue to stay
Okay.
in the agreement.
So we're just striking this paragraph of the amendment. It won't affect the original.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, just so we can clarify, is that motion just simply to strike Section D, or is it to approve this amendment, striking
Striking Section D,
Section D?
Yes, for clarification, yes. All right. Okay, any other questions before we vote on this? We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very, very much.
I'm sorry, can I just, can you repeat the names of the?
Yes, it was motion Hanley and second Minus.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to 5, item B. This is going to be a roll call vote. Debbie, thank you.
Good morning, Debbie Flynn, Space Coast TPO Transportation Planner. There are occasionally times when the Space Coast TPO may find it necessary to amend the long-range transportation plan outside the 5-year update cycle. Today, the Space Coast TPO is requesting approval to add one project to the long-range transportation plan. Per the request, the City of Palm Bay's City Manager, Suzanne Sherman, via a letter to Space Coast TPO's Executive Director, Georgiana Gillette, if potential funding for design and construction becomes available, St. John's Heritage Parkway Winding Project has been added to Table 11.8 grant-funded projects of the Long-Range Transportation Plan with an estimated cost of $3.3 million for design and $30 million for construction. This project is included in the 2023 list of project priorities under grant-funded on page 180 of your package today. Grant-funded projects are not ranked. The Space Coast TPO seeks to amend the 2045 Long-Range Transportation Plan by Resolution Number 2318, Long-Range Transportation Plan Amendment Number 4, in order to comply with planning consistency requirements. An amendment requires public review and comment in accordance with the public involvement process for long-range transportation plan amendments. Such notice was conducted with the posting of the Space Coast TPO May 11th, today's meeting, notice and included with meeting agenda posted on the Space Coast TPO's website on May 1st, 2023. Space Coast TPO is requesting approval of Resolution Number 2318-2045 Long-Range Transportation Plan Amendment Number 4 via roll call vote. I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions? All right, then maybe we have a motion and a second, and this will be a roll call.
Second.
Okay, so moved, motion by Mayor Medina, I'm sorry. Medina, I'm sorry, I mispronounced it, I'm very sorry. Second by Kenny Johnson. Thank you very much. All right, roll call vote.
Allender, Barton. Cole. Oh, wait, sorry. Let me only call the people that are here. Feltner. Hanley.
Yes.
Medina. Aye. Minus.
Aye.
Robinson. Willis.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Goins.
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye.
Miss me.
Who did I miss?
Forrester.
Forrester.
Yes.
Okay. Did I miss anybody else? Okay. All yeses.
All right, thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we will move on to the next item. Item C, Policy 01, Agency Organization and Operations, Space Coast TPO Governing Board, Officer Positions and Term Limits. Georgiana.
All right, last action item. We appreciate your patience while we knock these things out. So a question came up about our current policy for officer positions, and could there be an opportunity for maybe an automatic rotation of officers to ensure that all municipalities perhaps had an opportunity to chair or participate as the vice chair of the governing board. So in an effort to really kind of to find best practices, we asked SOE to do an MPO survey to call each one of the MPOs in Florida and kind of find out how how they conduct their officer positions and what their term limits are. So I will say on page 173 is our policy excerpt related to officers, and on page 174 is the survey on the positions and the term limits, if you want to reference that. We reviewed all of this information with our executive committee last month, and we discussed it in detail. And the executive committee really felt like instead of them making a recommendation, they would really like the governing board to weigh in on this. So we're really asking for some direction on 2 items. This is the first item, and this is the officer positions and their duties. So we have a chair, a vice chair, a secretary, and an assistant secretary. The chair, of course, will, call and preside all of our meetings. She executes our documents on behalf of the governing board. There are other duties that the chair conducts, basically reviewing and approving my timesheets, briefings, attendance at many of our meetings that we conduct, and sometimes there's speaking engagements that our chair will participate in on behalf of the TPO. The vice chair, in the absence of the chair, will serve as chair and execute documents as needed. And both of these positions also happen to serve on the MPOAC or the MPO, Central Florida MPO Alliance. So there are other duties that these 2 positions participate in. The secretary, in the absence of the chair and the vice chair, the secretary will serve as chair and executes resolutions along with the chair's signature. And then the assistant secretary is the executive director, which executes documents along with the chair's signature in the absence of the secretary. So if you look at the survey, the secretary position and the assistant secretary position, none of the MPOs have an assistant secretary, but the secretary position, I think there were 2 or 3. So the first question is the secretary and the assistant secretary position needed? And, so we can update our policies to reflect these changes. Option 1, we can just leave it as is, or option 2, we can update the policies to delete both positions and have the TPO board's board services administrator, which happens to be Zoe, certify the documents along with the chair's signature. So we wanted to put that out to you, and so that's the first item we wanted to get some direction on. So what is the pleasure of the board, or are there any questions?
Discussion. Everyone happy with it the way it is, or do you want to make a change and eliminate positions? Ms. Hanley?
Well, I've got to talk about our board here. I went to the clinic, I call it the clinic, this past weekend.
The MPOAC Institute?
Yes, I call it the clinic. And it was a lot of people didn't understand the 5-year plan or the 10-year plan. They didn't understand where the numberings came in or anything else. And one gentleman who is a county commissioner says, I got $10 million, what am I supposed to do with it? And he was sitting to the left of me, and I said, right here, baby, right here. Because I think $10 million, he did not know what to do with $10 million. So I'm almost saying stay where we are, since we seem to know what we're doing better than a lot of the other TPOs did not have a clue of, acronyms, I was off on that one too. We need the cheat sheet. But compared to the other ones in the state, we know a lot more than the other ones, the other people that I was really surprised they did not understand, where the fundings and how come some things move up and some things don't move up and where the fundings came. So I'm saying maybe we should just stay where we are, because we seem to be a lot more progressive. We're not perfect, but we're a lot more progressive in even some of the bigger, populated counties. I think we do better understanding. So I'm saying no change.
Thank you, Ms. Hanley. Any other? Yes, Joe?
I won't comment on some of them because I'm on the executive board. But I do ditto what you just said, what Mimi just said. I attended what she attended in April, and I found that we were in very good standing overall of the process of being informed. I went in there as a a learnee, and I've been on the board for 2 years and still had a lot of learn, but I was still much further ahead than many of the groups. So I did what she said about the status, but I won't comment on whether we should stay here or not. But when the vote comes up, we'll vote on it. Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Robinson. Any other comment on this, Mr. Forrester?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Still the same way. Any other comment? I would have to say that I too have been to the training, not that same training, to the IEMO training. I just went to it in April. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for Brevard and for our cities and for our county commissioners. I'm just very grateful for what we have here. When I see how the other cities are run, I don't know how they do it. So I have to say the same thing. Do we need a motion in a second just to keep it the way it is?
Yes, if,
All right,
please.
we had a motion, please. Motion, Hanley.
Second.
All right, second, Mr. Willis. Yes, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. We keep it the same.
All right, and then the second item, and I'll just say we have great leadership here on this board, so we very much appreciate all that you do for us.
We just need $75 million to take care of
Yes,
that.
yes, ma'am. Working on that one, for sure. Term limits. So our current term limits, this is our current policy. At the last meeting of the year, we elect a chair, a vice chair, a secretary, and an assistant secretary, and they serve for a period of 1 year, January the 1st to December the 31st, or until a successor is elected, whichever event occurs later in time. And, if you reference the survey of the other MPOs, the majority of the responses were a 1-year term or until a successor is elected. So they are following very similar to what we're doing. So for discussion purposes, we can keep it as is, really, no term limits, or we serve the officers can serve 1 calendar year, but no more than 2 consecutive years, but they're eligible for re-election at a later date. And the chair must have served on the governing board for at least 1 year minimum, thinking that a brand-new member that walks in and has not been on the board for at least a year, may not know exactly how the TPO, what we do and how we function. So it's open for discussion,
All
whatever
right,
the
discussion, Mr. Forrester.
I would recommend that we keep what we've got, but that we add the last sentence under discussion there about chair must be on the board for a minimum of a year
Okay.
before they're elected to chair.
All right. Any other discussion on this? Ms.
Yes.
Minus?
Okay, I think, and either one is fine. However, I opt for the second, where we have a lot of new people that's already here, and they could be here for a year. So if it's already embedded that we're gonna have the same people year after year, then, if you have term limits in your city, then you may not be able to serve. So this is an opportunity to be open for anyone who would like to serve versus the same 1 or 2 that's going to be there for 1, 2, 5, 10 years. So you can be out and, you definitely haven't gotten the benefit. So I just want it open up to anyone who would like to serve in any capacity, but definitely in those two, in the chair and the vice chair position. So 1 or 2 people just not stuck, but in those positions, and others have termed out and they haven't had the opportunity. We have, I think most of the municipalities have term limits in their jurisdiction. MPO has term limits. Space Coast League of Cities has term limits, And so to be in sync, if you will, to have that option where we won't have one or two people that's there forever. All right, give someone else an opportunity to serve.
We were in a situation where Mayor Schultz from the city of Rockledge was the TPO chair for 20-plus years. And there was a lot of institutional knowledge there, I will tell you. But then after the mayor left the city of Rockledge, then I think Commissioner Allender was the chair for a couple of years, and then Mayor Meehan from Melbourne served for roughly around, I'm thinking 5 or 6 years, something like that, and then Councilmember Young as well. So, yes, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
You know, I'd like to.
Mr. Medina, Mayor Medina.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in. There's a few things here. The very first thing is, Ms. Minus is highlighting something that I think we're overlooking. Each and every one of us that are here sitting on this board, we're elected officials. And in being an elected official, we know how to conduct meetings, and we could research, and we handle the daily businesses of our municipalities. And so I don't give credit to the fact that we're not experienced in coming into the TPO. So, you know, putting that confines, I'm in agreement with Ms. Minus. You're handcuffing a member that may want to serve as chair. And I believe that right here, right now, we have enough talent to step into the chairmanship. So I don't believe in restricting that or putting, you know, a restriction on that. I don't like putting handcuffs on people. The very next statement I'd like to make is, if we are willing to serve as chair, why would we need an additional requirement? Why would that be even a consideration when we're all capable? So those are things that I'm strongly about. I really believe what Ms. Minus has said is something that we should not only ponder, but why change things? Mm-hmm. Each and every one of us can go right into that position, and we're quick studies.
Agreed. Agreed.
Thank you. Ms. Hanley?
I totally disagree. After going to this clinic and seeing somebody that walked into was a commissioner, walked in, did not understand the funding priorities, how priorities can move up and down. This is something you learn. You don't walk into these things to be the chairman right away when you have no knowledge. And this is not just for one little city. This is for the whole county. And we have the port we have to deal with. We have to deal with the Space Center. As I like to say, we're the only county in the country that does this, has spaceport. So you have to have time to you don't walk in knowing this right away. I know I didn't. I've learned a lot. I don't think everybody has walked in here and knew be able to be the chairman right away without sitting there for at least a year to getting some knowledge of how everything works, how our planning goes in, how the money works. I think it takes you need a little time to get to be the chairman.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gugelman and then Mr. Willis. Oh, you didn't have a comment, Mr. Willis?
I'll just have to speak from my own experience, being recently elected last year. But with our situation with Cape Canaveral, we're rotating out after 2 years with an interlocal agreement with Cocoa Beach. And it doesn't allow much opportunity, because as soon as you're up and running and you see everything that you need to do, you're suddenly being replaced and sitting on the sidelines for 2 more years. And then hopefully, in my case, I come back. But I would like to see the availability to be there for participation.
All right, thank you. More comment? All right, would someone like to make a motion? We either leave it the way it is, or we we choose something from here? What are the wishes of the board?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Minus?
I move for option 2, or the second, to serve 1 calendar year.
But no more than 2 consecutive, and then able to reserve again after waiting for 1 year?
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Mr. Johnson? Comment, Mr. Forrester?
I still think we need to include item 3 there, that you must be on the board for at least a year before you can become the chairman. To me, that's important. I've been on this board, what, 5 or 6 years now, so as long as you have. And it's not something you just walk into off the street and know what you're doing. And I've been on the city council a long time, and walking onto this board was a totally different experience. So I think you need that expertise to be an effective leader of the board.
All right, thank you. Ms. Minus, you're including that in your motion?
Yes, I
And
would
Mr.
amend my motion. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Johnson, you keep your second? All right, any other discussion before we vote?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Gogoman?
Question for the body. If this passes, when are we looking at putting the 2-year term limits into effect? Prospectively or retrospectively?
I assumed it would be January coming up. Anyone else have a
question.
suggestion?
So the question basically is, would Councilmember Young be term limited out, I guess? Or would this requirement start counting after approval?
Immediately, yeah.
I would think it would, yes. As of January, we would be putting someone else in this seat. Does anyone else have an idea, want to comment on this?
Well, go ahead. Yes,
Mr. Robinson? Hold on till you get a mic.
because things change in the middle of the process, I don't think that if Ms. Young wants to continue in that position and serve her 2 years, now this year should count as one of those 2 years, but I don't think she should be termed out in January.
Right. Yeah, I'd like to weigh in. I think, I believe Mr. Robinson is correct, but what I'm hearing also is historical knowledge and serving as chair on this board is critical to serving as chair on one hand. Then on the other hand, we're saying, okay, you got to go to the governing board. So now you're adding a restriction, but you're condoning someone because they served. I love what Georgette said. We had Larry Schultz that served 20 years. Look at the historical knowledge and all that was gained from that. I believe we're in a great position because of that. So what we're doing is not only we're restricting, but then we're saying, okay, you do your 2 years and then off you go. So where are we putting the value for that expertise? This motion it kind of contradicts itself to me. So, but to your point, this year shouldn't even count. If we're going to start this should start from the very beginning. So the next election cycle, that's when it should take effect. It should take effect this year that our chairman is effective. This should take effect the following year. Those are my thoughts.
All right, so then we would not replace the seat up here until it would be, well, 24 would start, and 25 would be the second year, so we wouldn't have a new face up here until 26?
I don't agree with the restriction at all.
No, it says no more than 2 consecutive terms.
All right, so that would, if this ends at 24, so then the next chair would serve all of 24 and all of 25, because that would be the 2 years. Mm-hmm. And then 26, there would be a new face up here, which is fine with me. I love that.
If this motion passes.
If this motion passes, yes.
I'm understanding it says that, yeah, to serve 1 calendar year, but no more than 2 consecutive terms. So, yeah, it can be this year and maybe someone else is elected the second year. So it is no more than 2 consecutive terms.
Question is, when does that start?
Right.
And to my mind, it would
January.
start,
That'd be January.
countdown would start this year. We would not count this year because that's kind of going retroactive on the whole thing. If we started it in January of next year, then everybody would know what we were getting into. and that would
2024.
be- And then they'd have a maximum. Again, we choose them again every year anyway. We don't have to choose the same people every year. And so I would recommend that it start in 2004,
24.
or 2024, sorry.
All right, so then in 2024, we would do our usual election, make whatever nominations we want to make, and the board chooses who they want to serve in 2024,
Do that every year,
that, which we do anyway,
a
yes.
maximum of 2 years, 2 consecutive.
All right, so that is the motion. We have the motion minus, and we have, did we get a second on this? Yes, we had a second, Mr. Johnson. Yes. All right, so are we all clear on what we're doing now? Any other discussion before we vote? All right, all those in favor of option number 2, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. I'm sorry, Mr. Medina. Thank you. Motion carries. All right.
Madam Chair, if I may, while I have the mic, I want to thank you for your leadership. You are the TPO board. We're staff. And thank you for your confidence in me while I continue to lead the organization. But really, the credit goes to my assistant director, Laura Carter, and the amazing, talented staff that we have on the TPO. They really make us look good, and I just want to say thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to them
Yes.
as well. Mr. Gugelman.
Madam Chair, just for clarification, I want to make sure of this. I'm pretty certain Mr. Forrester's request that the chair must have served on the governing board for at least 1 year minimum. That was included in the motion, I
It
believe?
was?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Ms. Minus
just so we're all
amended,
clear for drafting purposes.
Yes, Ms. Minus?
Hey, Madam Chair, may I ask I think, I don't know if it went over me or what, that the director said that her timesheet is signed by whom?
By the chair?
Yes, the chair is responsible for reviewing my timesheet, and that is, something that must be done by, because, this TPO governing board is my boss, but the chair is responsible for that particular task.
Okay, all right. I was thinking that you're a county employee, so that's why would we sign your timesheet? So I understand now.
Well, we're not under the county, We're not county employees. We are an independent organization. So,
Okay.
yes. We have an interlocal agreement with the county. We're in the county building. We are an arm of the county because we work so closely with Brevard County. All 5 of the county commissioners are members of this TPO governing board, but we are not county employees.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. We've taken care of our voting items that we needed to do, so we can go back up and start at the beginning now with item 3 with the reports.
All right.
Georgiana, please.
Okay, all right. Let me get my bearings here.
Thank you for
Thank
staying
you.
for your votes. Thank you.
Okay, we do have public comment. that
Public
we-
comment, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
yes.
Miss Public comment. Yes, I do have a speaker card. Sandra Sullivan.
Good morning, Sandra Sullivan from South Patrick Shores. So first, I just want to thank TPO and to FDOT for listening to the public input in South Patrick Shores for the yellow flashing crosswalk, so that will not be going in. Secondly, I wanted to comment on agenda item F, the approval of the intermodal grant and work order. It's very exciting news that Brightline has invested $38 million at the south end of Tyco. And so when I read this in the TAC meeting, it just wasn't clear to me on the scope, because previously there was the passenger rail station location study. So this is an intermodal station. So is this project at the south end of Tyco to tie into potentially, an executive type airport? So if you could comment a little bit more on that. It's a very exciting project because you're tying, it's kind of like Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport, but in a space sense, and tying in the space business, and it has such amazing potential. So I would love to see a comment on that. And then my third thing is, as you probably know, there's legislative change changing the age of drivers of golf carts. And we have many golf carts in Brevard County, both in Viera, which has the county has a golf cart ordinance, so big changes. As well, beachside, we have a lot of golf carts operating, which crossing A1A, which do not have, I've met with FDOT, do not have permission to cross A1A. There's been no studies done. And local municipalities are treating LSVs like they're golf carts. They're not. They're governed by separate state statutes. Different rules apply to them. And this is very important because a lot of the golf carts, I'll put quote unquote, in Viera are LSVs. And then the LSVs, a lot of them beachside are golf carts, and they are governed by different statutes and different rules. And there's been a blind eye. So here's my ask. My ask, in the interest of zero vision, of preventing accidents, is for TPO to initiate an education of the public via social media platforms and materials that are put out both to the public as well as to the municipalities. For example, LSVs are required to have a license plate and registered with the state and insurance and such. So that's my ask today. In the interest of safety, this past weekend we had another golf cart or LSV in Viera tip over full of kids, and the ambulance took one of the kids to the hospital. So I mean, there's definite concerns here. So both from the statute perspective, but also from the safety perspective of letting the parents and the public know that come October 1st, we have legislative change that affects the age of the drivers. I think we have to do appropriate planning in the interest of safety. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move to item 3.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I have to excuse myself, but I wanted to just highlight item E, right, in our presentation from FDOT. The last several meetings, or the last multiple meetings, I've expressed the dire need for that study on our interchange 95 at the Malabar exit, where we've lost life. And I just wanted to highlight that for FDOT. That's a critically important topic for our area, and we really would love to see how they could expedite that review of that corridor. We don't need another loss of life to highlight the dire need on that interchange. So I just wanted to make that publicly known, and ideally FDOT will take note and respond as soon as they can.
Thank you very much, Mayor Medina. Thank you. So noted. All right. Director's report, Georgiana.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to comment on Ms. Sullivan's public comment, I think, I know that she has spoken to Abby about some potential social media posts where we can get the message out there, and I think that is an excellent idea, and that is something that we will do what we can to participate in that. It is for the safety of our Brevard County residents. I am not aware, interestingly, of any sort of Brightline participation or purchasing land at the Tyco Airport. That's news to me. But we're really excited to kind of move forward with our intermodal feasibility study. You know, back in 2016, we identified a preferred location in North Cocoa. And when we went through that effort, it was a very detailed analysis. And there were a lot of great locations. And it's not to say that, you know, in the future, they may very well come to fruition, but we had all the local governments at the table with us when we went through that effort. And All Aboard Florida, which is what it was called at the time, really liked the Cocoa location. And to this day, they say that it makes a lot of sense to them because of all the land that they now own. The city of Cocoa owns a significant amount of land at that location. They already have to slow down to head west. What we need to work on now is this feasibility study is really the first step as we move forward, you know, to identify and analyze those intermodal connections. If we had the financing plan to get a station, and Brightline isn't going to build it all on their own, they're looking for funding partners. We need to know how people are going to move and how are they going to get to the port, because that rail is never going to the port. That was never the intent whatsoever. The port doesn't want it there. Brightline doesn't want to go to the port, but we need to figure out the regional destinations, the local destinations, and how are we going to get people where they need to go once they get off the train and we get a station. And so this is really the first step. We want to do part of that is a ridership study. We're trying to be part of the solution. You know, we appreciate our Brightline partners, but you know, they have their sights set on going to Tampa, and we want to do our part to bring them back and the focus here in our area. The train's already coming through, and we want to make sure that we have a benefit and have a station. So we're looking forward to it. There will be a public involvement component as well, and this was a grant that we got from DOT, so this is not even the TPO's funding. So we were very appreciative to our DOT partners for giving us that grant. So looking forward to that. Also in your package, you have, Abby has included the public outreach and engagement highlights. May has been a very busy month already. May is Bike Month, and Shelby and Abby have been going around doing a lot of education and community events. It's also Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month, which is another vulnerable road user that we need to be aware of. Yesterday, I sent the latest transportation bill summary of the 2023 legislative bills, and I tell you, there's a lot in there. I'm not going to go through all of that. It is for your reading pleasure. As the dust settles and we understand what the intent of some of these transportation bills are, we will keep you posted, and there will be more to come on that. Also, the department, the DOT budget was approved, $15.2 billion for transportation, which is a record budget. To put it in perspective, the current budget is 12.6. So major investments in Florida in the Transportation Trust Fund. But believe it or not, it is still struggling to keep up with the transportation demand that we have in Florida because of how we're growing and how we're growing together. The governor's Moving Florida Forward initiative did not get fully funded. You know, he had a whole list of projects. These were very high priority projects. It received $4 billion in general revenue transfers, but it did not receive the tag fee redirects it needed to fully fund the $7 billion initiative. So not sure how the department is going to scale down that list of projects, but if you remember, Brevard County unfortunately did not receive any projects in that list. So also the MPOAC met on April the 27th. Secretary Perdue was in attendance and addressed the staff directors and the governing board, and he reiterated partnerships and how that communities throughout the state are really unique and have varied needs and priorities, and that DOT is committed to achieving the local visions for transportation. And we always enjoy listening to Secretary Perdue. And I just wanted to say again, thank you so much to our MPOAC graduates. And you are the experts here. And of course, we have other members here that have attended the MPOAC. The next Weekend Institute will be in October. We don't have dates yet. For any members that want to attend, just let me know, and we will make sure that you are in attendance, and we'll get you registered. And then the last item, we will be having our annual open house here in this room, June 6th at 5:30, here at the Center for Collaboration. So, you know, this is an opportunity for our citizens to come and learn more about our projects. We want to hear from them, and they can learn more about the TPO and what we do here. Because at the end of the day, our citizens have a stake in it, and we want to make sure that they are involved in what we do. So, Madam Chair, that is my report.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the TAC-CAC report. Georgiana?
Yes, the TAC-CAC met on Monday, and you have a summary of actions and the attendance record at your place, and they approved the consent agenda, and all of the action items were approved as well. That concludes the report.
Thank you. And Sarah Crum with the bike ped and trails.
Sarah Crom, Senior Transportation Planner. The Bicycle Pedestrian Trails Advisory Committee met on March 27th for their strategic assessment workshop. Thank you to everyone who participated in the survey. The full survey results are in your agenda package, as well as also a meeting summary that shows kind of initial findings and highlights from the BPAC strategic assessment workshop. We presented those initial results to the executive committee last month. And we are anticipating presenting results to the BPAC in June and then this board in July. The BPAC were supposed to have their annual walking workshop on April 24th. However, it had to be rescheduled to May 22nd due to weather impacts. So cross your fingers that we have good weather on May 22nd. Their next meeting will be held June 26th. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very, very much. All right, East Coast Area Transit, Terry Jordan, there you are.
Good morning, everyone. Terry Jordan, Space Coast Area Transit. My report will be brief. Recently, Space Coast Area Transit launched a Ride On program, which is trying to capture our youth for ridership, as we expect that they'll be the next group of potential users of the system coming out of middle school and high school. So we've started a program which we're trying to disseminate information to the schools and to our partners, Spells with the TPO, and Abby and her group have been very supportive in getting that information out as well. Excuse me. Space Coast Area Transit has submitted a couple of recent applications for additional vehicles. We submitted for 8 additional hybrid electric buses from a no and low emissions grant from FTA, and hopefully we'll receive funding for that project. We submitted an additional 5 vehicle requests to FDOT for our demand response ridership vehicles, so we're looking forward to that being awarded as well potentially. And what we have done, since there is such a delay in receiving brand new vehicles, what we have done is submitted and actually sent 5 of our demand response vehicles to be rehabbed. So on the exterior, these vehicles will look very similar to they do today, but the entire drivetrain, engine, transmission, everything will be updated, so it's going to reduce our maintenance expenses on these vehicles. So we're continuing to try to make sure our fleet is in a state of good repair, with not only replacing vehicles, but also rehabbing vehicles, so we continue to maintain the service, the level of service that we operate. And lastly, our fixed route ridership is something I always talk about here. Our ridership for the most recent report was 156,000 passengers carried over the last month. And so this is actually the highest ridership level we've seen since actually in the last 18 months. So we're continuing to trend upwards. We're about 5% over year to date right now, and we're continuing to trend upward every month. That's my report. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to help answer.
Mr. Forrester, yes.
When you order a new bus, how long does it take to get it?
Oh, that is a weighted question. As of right now, we're talking about 18 to 20 months for a vehicle to be delivered. We actually just received delivery of a vehicle last week that we were waiting on for a good year and a half. So just because of the build process, delay, supply chain issues, we're talking about almost from the time the bus is spec'd to close to 2 years.
Wow. All right. Any other comment, questions for Mr. Jordan? No. All right. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Good report. Thank you. All right. We'll move along to, let me see, Florida Department of Transportation. Yesenia.
Good morning, Yesenia Encarnacion, District 5 with FDOT. I just have a couple of announcements this morning and then some follow-ups for you. May 15th, Central Office will send official notification to all MPOs, TPOs on the census data. Once that becomes available, there will be a 180-day clock will start for all MPOs to submit their proposed apportionment plans. There are a few upcoming May webinars, actually the Protect Discretionary Grant by the FHWA. The last one is actually today, this afternoon from 1 to 2 p.m. if you're interested. In addition, on May 22nd, the 2050 Revenue Forecast webinars also will be available. We can send that information to you if you need that. And then any upcoming meetings, July 26th, the FMPP in-person meeting at the Turnpike will be an all-day meeting as well. In your packet on page 45, you will see the list of FDOT's construction reports. Please keep in mind that those can also be found on the cflroads.com. I have no updates to share on that report. However, if you have any questions for me or comments, I can take note of those and then get back to the TPO on that. I do have a follow-up information on a previous inquiry from Councilwoman Hanley in reference to the US 1 and 192 corridor. I followed up with our traffic ops division, and they came back and said that they've been coordinating with the county and the city on this location, as well as conducting several studies. They're working to determine the status of the scope for a project to extend the right turn lane and provide dual westbound through lanes. Nothing has been programmed or funded as of yet. However, in the interim, their studies have repeatedly recommended retaining the dual right turn and single through lane due to the morning peak. Right turn volumes approximately double the westbound through and equal to the westbound through the remainder of the day. However, if they should change to a single right turn lane and dual through lanes without extending the turn lane, it will likely significantly increase the delay as the right turn lane will be blocked through the queues. So if you have any other questions on that.
Yes,
We
Ms.
have
Hanlon.
a sign, that's, I understand that, I mean, people don't, coming up there, we have visitors, that's a large, people coming over from Orlando, going over there, coming back. We need a sign. Can you at least give us a sign there? Just, I'm asking for a sign. That's one of the biggest things, because people go in and out of that. So I understand their studies, but I not at the peak time, and it's still a problem.
I understand. We will definitely coordinate with the TPO staff and try to get a meeting with their traffic
So
operations.
when would you be getting back with us about the sign? I've been asking for probably a year and a half, and I get this, oh, we're looking at it, we're looking at it. How long does it take it to go to a sign?
Councilmember Hanley, is it a sign, more of a directional sign?
Right.
Overhead?
Saying, well, these are which lanes go which way, because you have the O'Galley, and people are so used to the O'Galley Bridge, and then they come to the Melbourne Bridge, and they forget, or they're not used to it. They're used to having that turn lanes. So please, just give us a sign.
Okay.
So when can I expect the sign? I am at a point where I'm not even being nice.
Yes.
When can we expect the sign? Can we have it by July?
Well, I can't guarantee that, but
How about July?
I'll definitely
July
get back
4th.
to the team about
You know,
that.
I'll be out there July 4th. And what's your number? Because I'll call you. I have no shame.
And just wanted to, I know Mayor Medina left a little early, but just a little clarification on what his concerns as far as the I-95 in Malabar. There were also some safety studies conducted in that corridor intersection. And I am working with the team on and getting all that, what their findings were. I know that they were doing several things in that area, so I will hopefully have more of an update at the next meeting.
Okay, all right.
Any questions?
Would you be able to send that update and respond to Mayor Medina as soon as he
Yes,
gets
absolutely.
especially if it's before the meeting, so he has something to take back to his council?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
and copy.
Yes,
Copy
certainly.
me.
Please copy, yes.
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 Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Madam Chair, so I just had a question with the 520 to the bridge. Where are we with that project? I know a study's already done, I think last year or so. And also the 524 corridor as well. Any updates?
I have no updates. I'm fairly new and still learning a lot.
I got you.
However, I can definitely follow up on those two for you and then send you an update.
Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
If I may, Councilmember, the 520 corridor through the one-way pairs, so I think that project, it's a big resurfacing. I think from Aurora to the Hubert Humphrey Bridge through the one-way pairs. And the city of Cocoa had the vision of making that corridor more of a complete street, slowing that traffic down, calming it down in the Cocoa Village area. And so the TPO conducted a study several years back, and the department was able to fund, incorporate the elements from the study into that resurfacing, and the TPO actually put 1.7 million of our money on it. This board approved it back then. And so I think it will be a really valuable project for the community. And I see, because I went through there this morning, that it looks like it is officially under construction because they've got the lanes. It looks a little squirrely there. So I see Suzanne there, and so we're really excited about that project. I definitely think it'll be an impact. You know, everything will be torn up and dusty, but I think when it's done, it's going to be quite an asset for the community. 524, unfortunately, is a little slower, the widening of 524. It is on our priority list. We know that that is a big priority for Cocoa due to just the development and the need of that area, and the fact that, you know, that is the close location to where we think the passenger rail station will go one day. And so the PD&E is really on the shelf. However, we need design funded. And so I know that the city is discussing perhaps contributing some money for the design and for the department to hopefully match it. But it is a high priority for us, and we know that that's got to get done sooner rather than later.
I'm glad you went into that. So I do know we're not on the project priorities right now. But I really, this is my begging moment for our board to consider. Right now, it is at number 8 as far as the 524 corridor project. I'm really just imploring that we move that up. Today, if Brightline said they wanted to move in, we couldn't even approve the project because of the infrastructure not being in place.
Right.
So if we're gonna say that this is a priority for Brevard County to get a Brightline stop, which I believe that we all feel that way, we have to make our priorities, you know, show that. And right now, I'm glad it moved up to number 8, but we need to show the state that we as TPO board, you know, show that that is a priority, moving it up. Not saying the other projects are not important, of course, But if we're the spaceport, we have the state's largest port, all these different things that we have, I think we need to show that priority, in my humble opinion.
Okay. Yes, and so I think that is our next, when you come up, why don't we just go ahead and handle that right up front?
All right.
Any other questions?
Any
No,
other
I'm good.
questions?
Sorry about that.
No, you're okay.
Very
Good.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, so we're now going to move to presentations, and we're going to talk about our 2023 list of priority projects. Sarah?
All right. Good afternoon, and thank you, Councilmember Goins, for kicking us off with jumping right into the list. I would like to give a little introduction, and then I'll skip to the regional significance.
Okay.
So to introduce our draft list of project priorities, Metro Plan was kind enough to let us borrow one of their videos that just gives kind of a super brief introduction to what a list of project priorities is, and also the Transportation Improvement Program, which Georgiana will be presenting.
It's on page 177 in your book. No, it's on page 177.
Have you ever wondered how transportation projects come to life? All projects in our 20-year plan get put on a waiting list for funding called the Prioritized Project List. It can take years or even decades to get out of the gate. Major transportation projects have big price tags. Funding these projects can be complicated and usually involves a combination of federal, state, and local money. We work on a project in phases. Each phase appears in our 5-year plan as it's funded, and this is great news. Once a project appears in the Transportation Improvement Program, it's making progress. Let's take a look at 2 types of projects: major roads, like state highway projects, and big public transportation projects, like bus rapid transit or rail. Both types begin on a similar path. First, we decide what kind of project will meet the identified need. Next, an in-depth planning study is done to look at all the available options for how the road will be built or what type of transit technology will be used. The public has opportunities to provide input, and environmental impacts are also considered. At the end of this phase, one option is chosen. After this, road projects and public transportation projects go in different directions. A road gets designed, any necessary right-of-way gets acquired, and then construction can begin. These phases often take years. For a big public transportation project needing money
Since we're mostly focused on roadways, we're going to cut the video a little bit short today. If it lets me. I apologize. All right, so the list of project priorities is where the planning meets the money. It is a prioritized list of projects that are usually multimodal in nature, that range everything from a widening to a trail to intersection improvements. This helps us communicate to FDOT what projects are our priorities in the area, as well as also what projects need funding. And normally we're looking out into the 5th year because that's how our plans are developed, is on 5-year cycles. It's also the implementation of LRTPs, and also that's when the funding's available, but it's also the implementation of our long-range transportation plan, as well as also all the master plans that the TPO develops. So when we're considering the list of project priorities and the project prioritization process, it's important that we're thinking regionally, or interregionally, excuse me, from MICO to MEMS. Is these projects, they don't just impact your cities, but as Councilmember Goins was just saying, a lot of these projects, they reach beyond the city limits and the impact that they can have. So where do the project priorities fit in our planning cycle? Essentially, we begin with a long-range transportation plan that sets out our vision and incorporates all of our master plans, our planning efforts, considers cost feasibility, and municipalities have the opportunity to take projects out of the long-range transportation plan and apply for them to be put on the list of project priorities. We then annually go through the list of project priorities. We develop a draft, we open up for a call for projects, and projects that are funded are then put in the Transportation Improvement Program. So as I mentioned, we do a call for projects annually. Applications are submitted, we evaluate, we rank. This board adopts a list of project priorities. This year it'll be in July. And then we submit it to FDOT along with funding recommendations. FDOT reviews the applications. They vet them with their various staff as well as also the local municipalities that submitted the projects. And we work with them for project programming and work program development. And eventually that leads to a local agency program project where the municipality is implementing the project or FDOT is implementing the project. The LOP, or list of project priorities, is prioritized via a quantitative score, qualitative score, and discretionary ranking that this board has the ability to do. The quantitative score is developed via safety, transportation, and land use, or rather criteria within these 5 emphasis areas: safety, transportation, land use, sustainability and resiliency, innovation, and multimodal. So it's very wide berthed on the various criteria that a project is ranked by, and we try to hit everything that potentially a project would need. We do have 5 new projects, but as I said, I just wanted to give a little intro, and then at the direction, I will jump to our regionally significant list. There we go. So that we can have the discussion in regards to the ranking of 524. So just a quick review of our regionally significant list. It is a variety of projects that are throughout the county addressing a variety of different needs. These are all roadway projects, but a lot of the times these roadway projects are very multimodal in nature, which is the case of 524. So we have Malabar, which in the city of Palm Bay, from St. John's Heritage Parkway to Minton. It is currently funded for design. This project, I have to give kudos to Palm Bay. They stepped up and they put in $7 million of local funds, and the TPO was able to match it with $3 million in federal funds in order to get the design underway. And it still needs construction, which is $72 million, so another really large ticket item here. We also have Palm Bay at Babcock, or Palm Bays Road in Babcock. We have the 2 A1A projects, which I feel like we're very familiar with in Cape Canaveral, which is the complete street sidewalk and access management project from International Drive to Long Point Road to George King, and then the intersection project at International Drive in Long Point. The intersection project is fully funded. It's currently under design, construction in fiscal year 27. The complete street project is under design, however, it needs right-of-way and construction funding. Brings us to Clear Lake Road. This project is a widening from Michigan to Industry Road. It is currently under the design update. Right-of-way is needed $24 million. And then just to kind of quickly jump down to number 8, we have State Road 3, Courtney Parkway. They just finished an access management study on it, so hopefully we'll actually be able to start to pull projects out. And then we have a small curb and gutter section in Cocoa Beach on A1A, and then the 524 project, which, no, I don't think did I make that? Yes, I did make a slide. Sorry, I had pulled out some projects to highlight, and it just happened to be one of them. So this was one of the projects that we actually pulled out to highlight because we feel like it's a significant project to watch. It's critical in the regional connections for the potential intermodal station. However, also even without the intermodal station, it's a critical corridor for the seaport and the beaches, as well as also obviously for cocoa. So the PD&E is wrapping up. It'll be wrapped up this fall. However, as Georgiana already mentioned, it will be going quote unquote on the shelf, which essentially means that it can never be approved until design for the full corridor has been funded, which is $10 million, or a section of the roadway is completely funded, which is about $10 million, but then you'd have like this little section done and not the full corridor. And so Councilmember Goins is requesting that that project be moved up in the ranking. So let me back up to there. Now, because we don't have a quorum, I don't think we can officially, I mean, I think we could get direction, but it can't be officially ratified until July.
Yes,
correct?
so we will be bringing the list of project priorities for adoption in July, but we can go ahead, if the board supports that, go ahead and move it. And this is our draft list. We will not be adopting to July, but go ahead and move it. If 524 is a higher priority than Clear Lake, then I would suggest move it in front of Clear Lake. The two projects are very critical.
Yeah, and both, sorry for cutting you off, but both projects are going to simultaneously, Michigan and Industry Road, Clear Lake, all that tie in together. But I do believe that the 524 itself, not only for Brightline, you have another 6 subdivisions coming in to that corridor. 2 apartment complexes just got completed. So it's a lot of people coming to that Walmart distribution, Walmart Supercenter. I mean, it's a lot going on in that area. So yes, 524 should be ahead of Clear Lake.
Well, I certainly,
in my opinion.
Yes, I certainly see the need with the fact that the PD&E cannot even officially be approved by the Office of Policy Planning because the design isn't funded. That's a requirement, which means the PD&E is going to sit on the shelf and get old, which means it's going to have to be reevaluated at some point, which is really not a good use of funding. So to go ahead and move it forward, I think, to show to the department that, look, this is a high priority for the city, and they are coming to the table once it's determined exactly how much as a funding partner, and we need to get it funded. I think that makes a lot of sense. So your recommendation would be to move it to the new number 4 for under the regionally significant, and just move everything down.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So.
Or since Palm Bay left, we can move it.
Move it up to number 1. Okay, you let the mayor know that.
I like getting to stand up and talk to you guys.
You can fill out a speaker card.
Any more comments on this? I know Ms. Sullivan goes out to get a speaker card. Anything else you'd like to add to this?
I mean, I would love to give you guys the full presentation and tell you about the rest of the list. I just was trying to make sure that we got this addressed, and so would you like me to go back and talk about the CIS while we wait?
We certainly can. Or we can just ask her to come up and she can turn in the card.
Madam Chair.
Is she standing there? Yes.
Okay, well, she can go back to the list. Just want to ask, where was Melbourne on the list? I think Melbourne was number 1.
Oh my gosh, where am I? Okay, there.
I think you I think he was, yeah.
So which project in Melbourne are you specifically looking for?
What was it, the Sarno Road? Was it Sarno? I think it was number 14.
So
Yeah.
Melbourne has a couple of projects.
Okay, where's the other one? I just see the one.
Both on the regionally significant as well as also on our studies list, and they submitted a new project this year. So currently there is the O'Galley and Sarno intersection on, it is number 14, as well as also number 11 is O'Galley and Wickham. And so that's where those two intersection projects fall. As I mentioned, Melbourne did submit a new project that is on our studies list for a alternative corridor evaluation on Norfolk. And I'd be happy to share that after we hear public comment.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sullivan.
Good morning, Sandra Sullivan. Just wanted to comment, I was looking at the budget 2023 by the county on the roads that they have identified at being near or at capacity to the overlap, and I see some are not denoted here. And so, so Grissom Parkway, which just got funding for design study in the last BOCC meeting. We have North Banana Drive, 1.2 miles, South Courtney Parkway, half a mile, Sun Tree Boulevard, 0.4 of a mile, Wickham Road, which I think that one might be up there, 1.2 miles, Wickham Road, another portion, 2.1 miles. And then identified Ellis Road you have on there, over capacity. Hollywood Boulevard, over capacity, 1.1 miles, Wickham Road, 2.3 miles, Minton Road, 0.25 miles, and Palm Bay. And I would like to comment, so I think, you know, the coordination of looking at the list identified by Brevard County, and then also, obviously, funding is the biggest issue for projects. To look at, the county has not increased impact fees, which is the developer share of costs. All this growth from development is who's going to pay for this, right? Or do we, you know, if we don't have the funding, you know, then we look at alternatives that are not very palatable. For example, on State Road 528, which is a very high priority, we don't want to have toll roads. The public has very strongly said. So I think the big picture is we have, you know, we have to have that coordination and look at these roads that are over capacity or near capacity. And we also have to maybe stomach a pill here and look at transportation impact fees, which there was an impact fee study done in 2016 that recommended a 75% increase. Well, obviously with state statute, we can't do that now because you're very limited to what percentage, but we don't even have a CPI increase on our roads, and we're looking at construction costs are well over, you know, 20%. So, I mean, obviously inflation plays a big part here, and yet we don't increase impact fees at all in over 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Thank you, Joey.
All right, so if it pleases the group, I would go back to the beginning of the presentation and get us back on track here. So we did have 5 new projects submitted, one of which was in Melbourne. I apologize, I'm trying to get my slides back here. So Melbourne submitted the Norfolk Parkway extension. This is for the planning study list. This is for an alternative corridor evaluation, which is a planning study, which essentially asks the question of, this is a new road, brand new road, no asphalt down. How do we get from point A to point B, and what is the best alternative environmentally to encourage development to basically meet all the project goals? Wickham Road at Post Road, this was submitted by Brevard County. This is on the regionally significant list. This is to build a southbound right turn lane and extend the southbound left turn lane in order to improve congestion and traffic flow, and they are seeking design funding. Oh, I apologize. Brevard County also submitted, or excuse me, West Melbourne submitted the Minton Road intersection improvements. These are intersection improvements that were previously presented to this board during the Minton Road feasibility study, and I believe it was 2020 is when we wrapped that up, 2021. And essentially this would improve traffic conditions through the corridor, as well as also pedestrian crosswalks and mobility. and they are seeking design funding. Brevard County submitted the Micka Road Complete Street to our discretionary grants list. This is a unranked list. This project is really meant for projects that are guaranteed that they are going to be submitting for a federal grant. And it is to enhance safety through construction of the sidewalk. Will also include the installation of mid-block crossing by relocating existing marked crosswalks, install a raised median that will provide pedestrian refuge islands. They are requesting design. And then the project that we discussed earlier through the LRTP amendment, the St. John's Heritage Parkway widening. This is also in the unranked discretionary grant list. And essentially they are seeking to widen St. John's Heritage Parkway from Malabar Road to just north of Emerson in order to increase capacity in South Brevard.
Sarah, if I may, on that note, every one of these projects are off the state highway system, which means we can't use traditional state funds on roadways off the state highway system. And so, you know, DOT, only 25% of their funding is federal. And that funding seems to be dwindling more and more with the cost of projects. You know, the federal gas tax has not been raised since 1992. And I like to always say home improvement and Seinfeld were the top television shows in 1992. So I loved both of them. It was a long time ago. So yes, it is a challenge. There's just not enough federal funds to go around to work on these projects off the state highway system. We do get access at times to TRIP or SCTPO, which is a state grant that requires a 50% match. So there are opportunities, and there are times we've used it for Hollywood Boulevard in West Melbourne. We've used it all over Ellis, trying to match it with our federal funds and the county's federal funds to get some of the construction funding partially funded.
The Traffic Management Center.
The Traffic Management Center, that's going to be the brand new center that's going to be built on Pineda. That was, county matched it with TRIP funding. So it's very specific that you have to cobble together the money for these projects off the state highway system. So it is a challenge, but of course they're important, and so we only want to go after regionally significant projects. Projects are going to be regional in nature.
As well as also projects that are pursuing state and federal funds. If it's a local project that you plan on funding within your own entity and are not seeking federal or state funds, this is not the place for them.
Yes.
All right, so those were our new projects. Our strategic intermodal system list has 6 projects. To summarize, there were no significant changes in our SIS list of projects. They all need construction at this time, and significant construction prices. As we know, with Ellis Road, our #1 strategic intermodal system project from, which is the widening of Ellis Road, from John Rhodes Boulevard to west of Wickham Road. I think a picture speaks 1,000 words on the need of this project. Is you can see, looking eastbound, going towards the airport, how you have this nice wide roadway on the interchange, and then all of a sudden you go to this teeny tiny little roadway as you're trying to bottleneck through that section. So construction is, well, right-of-way is fully funded for fiscal year 21 through 25, so it's currently underway. And the requested phase is construction, which is partially funded. $30 million has been funded. We still need an additional $72 million, and we are developing the total cost is $72 million. And we are developing an infra grant in development with Brevard County in order to hopefully receive that grant to fill in the rest of the funding. So we are back to our regionally significant projects. I apologize if I missed it, but I do not, did we confirm that the direction of Councilman Goins that I will be moving within the draft, the project up?
Yes, I think we
Okay.
confirmed that.
All right,
yeah.
just making sure. So some other regionally significant projects to watch: Malabar Road and Palm Bay. I already mentioned the funding that they received. It's once again really important to mention that the reason this project was able to move forward is due to the significant investment of Palm Bay. I mentioned the A1A projects as well. However, one other thing that I'd like to mention is the potential for intermediate complete street improvements. There is an upcoming resurfacing, which will be designed in fiscal year 25, construction in fiscal year 27. This is far sooner than we would be able to get the complete street section funded. So we are currently working with Cocoa Beach, Cape Canaveral, as well as FDOT to see just how much of the improvements we could potentially get from 520 all the way to George King in that resurfacing project. Mentioned these as well. And then finally, the last regionally significant project that I wanted to bring to your attention is South Street or State Road 405 from State Road 50 to Rock Pit Road. This is a widening project that requires a PD&E. It is the only project that is seeking PD&E funds on our list of project priorities. However, this year we plan to request that FDOT fund and administer a corridor study, which is traditional as part of the PD&E process. You need to do the corridor study right up there up front. And the City of Titusville has committed to the project and is a willing funding partner for the PD&E. All right, our transportation management and operation, or TSMO projects, many of them need design, and there has not been any significant changes this year. The Traffic Management Center is one project I would like to highlight. It is fully funded with the design wrapping up. This is vital to the implementation of our intelligent transportation system in Brevard because it's really the brains of the operation of every single signal out there and a perfect way for us to communicate with FDOT, and Melbourne manages signals and Titusville manages signals, and really just bringing everyone together to work the intelligent transportation system, as well as also it will be the new home of the TPO. Our bicycle and pedestrian projects, there were no changes. We had no additional projects added. However, we had 3 State Road A1A sidewalk projects that originally we thought were going to require right-of-way, and we received good news that only construction funding is needed now, and they are currently under design. This is where the 3 projects are. We have Shearwater Parkway to Pineda, Volunteer Way to Roosevelt, Grosse Pointe to Flug, and they will fill in sidewalk gaps and are currently under design. We just need to get the funding to actually construct these sidewalks. Our Sun Trails network, or shared use network trails, there were no changes on this list, and we'll hopefully see our Space Coast Trail going in soon. Planning studies. As you can see, we have a hefty planning studies list. Some of these projects are activities that you will be seeing in the next couple of years being administered by Space Coast TPO staff. I've highlighted those in green. So you just approved the long-range transportation plan, scope of services. That will be going underway shortly here. Dixon Boulevard, a complete street feasibility study has been requested by the City of Cocoa, and we anticipate starting that next winter. That time frame, you just approved the intermodal station feasibility scope, as well as also coming up here in the fall, we'll be bringing a Southern Brevard Trails Master Plan scope of services to this board. To highlight just how successful a list of project priorities can be, I have included a fully funded project list. And so these were projects that have been funded for the years of fiscal years 25 to 29. So what can you expect to see under construction this year? And Councilmember Goins must have pre-read my presentation, so because State Road 520, as he already mentioned, from Aurora Road to the Hubert Humphrey Bridge, construction just started this week, and it is anticipated that it'll be completed in late 2023. And Georgiana gave an excellent description of the project earlier. State Road 405 NASA Bridge replacement is currently under construction. Staff had the pleasure to go out and tour the construction site. It really is amazing to see how quickly they're getting that bridge up and just learn about all the different things that go into building a bridge. The first span is anticipated to be completed in 2023 and be able to receive traffic, and then they will start on the second span, which is anticipated to be completed in 2026. State Road 501, or Clear Lake Road, there's a safety project that construction is to be let in June 2023, so probably this fall is when you'll actually see activity, fall, winter. Project will enhance the multi-mobility safety throughout the entire corridor from State Road 520 to Industry Road. And then finally, the last project that I wanted to highlight is US 192 at Hollywood and Evans. Construction was let this month, and it'll include additional turn lanes along US 192 and Hollywood and Evans, ITS improvements, upgraded pedestrian features, and so we'll see construction there shortly. So coming up, as Georgiana already mentioned, we have our public open house, and then we'll go into approval from our boards and committees of the list of project priorities and plan to submit our list of project priorities to FDOT on July 15th. So with that, I will take any kind of questions or discussions that you might have.
Comments from the board? Yes, Ms. Minus.
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask, this is for I'm in all municipalities over the county, but is there an update for Babcock and Palm Bay Road, that intersection there that is very dark? I frequent there a lot, establishments around there.
So you're seeking lighting, is what you're saying?
Lighting, yes. I was there the other night, and someone was crossing, and it is very dangerous. So just asking for an update on that. And they don't care anything about the no turn on red, you know. They just barrel through there. So I can understand how those individuals unfortunately, passed. But if there's an update on that.
Let us run that down.
Yeah. I'm not sure if there is any additional update, but we can look into it.
Also, I see where the St. John Heritage Parkway that is being widened, proposed to be widened on that end, but from 95 to St. John's Heritage Parkway going east. Is there an update on that? Because I'm always in South Florida, and I would love to get off on St. Heritage Parkway and hit Babcock.
I believe that is part of the Melbourne city limits of St. John's Heritage Parkway.
From
Emerson to
no
north, or no? I'm sorry.
No, this is say 95, and at the intersection there's an exit. You can go east or west on St. John's Heritage Park to St. John's Heritage Parkway, but this is in Palm Bay.
The Palm Bay section.
The Palm Bay section, yes. From 95, if you get off on that exit, then you go you can't go east because it's to nowhere.
So
but if you go west, you'll be able to get to it.
So the section that does not exist, basically,
right,
at Babcock Street. Brevard County has that ACER alternative?
So the alternative corridor evaluation will be wrapping up this fall, was the last update that I received from Brevard County about where that is. So that will basically define where would the new alignment for the St. John's Heritage Parkway and that, southernmost part of Brevard. And then it will we'll still have to figure out the funding, whether it's Palm Bay that decides to, fund implementing it, if it's developer funded, if it pursues federal or state funds. It is not in our long-range transportation plan at this time. So if they do decide to pursue state or federal funds, then.
Okay.
It's our understanding that perhaps portions of it may be funded by developers. It's a brand-new alignment. It's outrageously expensive for that project. Whether it's going to be federalized or not, I don't know. But it would require a PD&E, a large PD&E phase. If it's going to be federalized, that would be the first step. Or if the city's going to try to construct it in segments via, city funding or developer funding. So But we are a part of that study, and we are waiting to know what direction they'll be going in.
Okay. All right. Just want to add that definitely appreciate the updates on Melbourne and Ellis Road, still top priority. I'm completely, I'm at ease with everything that's going on. Also appreciate the update, from US 1 and 192.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other comments for Sarah? Thank you. I have two comments I'd like to make.
Yeah.
The project we're talking about for the Brightline station, that is up here, that's 524, this project.
Yes.
You were very successful in getting Ellis Road to be on the state highway list. Can we not do the same thing here? Because getting that Brightline station built is certainly regionally significant. Does that qualify?
The National Highway System?
The National Highway System.
Unfortunately not. For it to be on the National Highway System, I believe that it needs to be either a SIS facility, a Strategic Intermodal System facility. Those are like 528, I-95. It would have to be on that level. Ellis Road was already designated a SIS connector, and so it was an easy lift to try and make that formal request to central office and Federal Highway to get it on the National Highway System, which put it eligible for the infrastructure grant that we are going to be applying for later this year. So unfortunately, 524, I don't know how it would qualify, but that's a great strategy.
But we are looking at other grants that don't require it to be on this national highway system.
We are going to consider some other grant opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you very much, because as Mr. Goins said, if Brightline said yes today and wanted to build, they couldn't do it because the infrastructure is not there. So I'd like to do everything we can to help move that project along. And my second comment is on number 15, Hollywood Boulevard widening. This project has been on the books since, I think, the 70s. It certainly has been patient. And Hollywood Boulevard there, there are so few north-south corridors to move the traffic. And as it is, Hollywood stops at Palm Bay Road. Derry stops at Palm Bay Road as well. So that leaves traffic on Minton and Babcock. Widening to get this traffic through so that it can disperse east and west once it get down there is certainly significant. And being on the books this long, I'd certainly like to, since this is our draft and we're talking about moving some of these projects up in priority, I certainly like to move that up as well. The thing is, with all of these regionally significant, they are all
important,
critical. They are. If we could do all of these, things would move along so much more easily. But if we could put some thought into where that could be placed, where it would not be detrimental to these others on the list. I appreciate that. All right. Any other comments for Sarah before we move on to the next?
I have another question, Madam Chair.
Minus.
Okay. I keep hearing about Brightline and Cocoa. Well, he's gone. Before, it wasn't mentioned about Brightline, about Cocoa being in the picture at all. So I'm hearing more and more about Brightline and Cocoa. Is there any credence to that they may be entertaining Cocoa instead of Melbourne?
Well, Councilmember Minus, the reason why the focus is on Cocoa is back in 2016, the TPO conducted a station location study, and Port Canaveral paid for that study. They financed it, and Bob Comm was the director at that time. And that was that very in-depth analysis that I referenced earlier. Now, all the local governments were at the table, and each local government was able to submit potential locations that they feel could be a viable station. And at the end of the day, and by the way, on our website, we have established a rail page which lists that study, so you can actually see the analysis and what the preferred location was. And we did that in agreement with Brightline, or All Aboard Florida at the time. And the location was the North Cocoa location was the preferred location adopted by the TPO Governing Board, and Brightline seemed to be, all aboard Florida, very much in support of it. In fact, they also wanted us to include the old FEC station in Rockledge, where the old station was. So they were very much interested in both of those locations. And so that work has been done. Now, it's not to say that one day there isn't another location that bubbles up to the top. I mean, I think Melbourne makes a lot of sense, but we have to start laying the groundwork and start doing the planning if we want to have a serious conversation with Brightline. There has to be a financing plan. We have to start doing the feasibility study. And we're moving forward with all the work that was established from that passenger rail station that was adopted. So that's why Cocoa, you keep hearing Cocoa, because that was the preferred location, and that's what we have been moving forward with. But if we don't start focusing on a location and really digging into it, we're just going to be sitting here, I'm afraid, while they move on to Tampa.
Thank you.
If that makes sense.
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, with our last presentation is the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program. Georgiana.
Yes, so there's only 3 slides, but I'm not going to go through them. But at your place, you have the first draft of the Transportation Improvement Program, and it is for fiscal year 24 to 28. And this is a federally required document that lists transportation improvements for federal, state, and local matching funds to be implemented in Brevard County over the next 5 years. And so, you know, our vision at the TPO is to provide a safe, multimodal, innovative, and resilient transportation system for all. So the projects in the TIP it really is going to help us do that. And so the Transportation Improvement Program brings our vision to life. Some of those projects are some of the projects that Sarah just went over. They're priority projects, but we also have a maintenance or preservation of the system section, all of the resurfacings that will be happening in Brevard County. There's also a safety section, technology or ITS. We have sidewalks, trails, complete streets. We have a transit section, an aviation section, and of course, seaport and spaceport. So we certainly are multimodal. And so this document lists $1.3 billion worth of projects over the next 5 years that is going to be coming into Brevard County to improve safety, and to really help with our bicycle pedestrian improvements. So this is the draft TIP. Our open house will be discussing a lot of these projects, and we will be bringing it to you, the full package, including our maps and the executive summary to you in July for adoption, as well as our project priorities. So right now, this is just for your information, so please take a look at it. Let me know if you have any questions related to the projects. There are some projects in there that are new, and there are some that have been moving through the pipeline. And by the way, we will be turning that list over to the DOT, and they review it to make sure our TIP is consistent with their work program and for adoption in July. So that is just for your information. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I'm going to get some extra copies of this to take from my counsel.
Yes, yes.
Any questions regarding this for Georgiana? Any other comments or anything for the comment of the order, for the good of the order? All right, in that case, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All right, all those in favor, get up and adjourn.